So WA, we are looking at strong population growth, strong economy at this moment.
And the wages are growing almost faster than anywhere else.
Yes.
On this month's Listener's Choice episode, we're starting with the state of WA, honing in on the LGA, and then a specific suburb that you've sent in. Providing her expert opinion, we're joined by none other than Junge Ma, lead research analyst at Investorkit.
In Mandurah, we are also seeing very strong population growth, even higher than WA's average. For last year, more than 80% was because of.
So drum roll, what's your answer to Matt's question?
The LGA itself, the one downside I can see might be the.
If you're looking at buying an investment property in one of the hottest hotspots in Perth right now, this is going to be an episode you're going to want to listen to closely. My name's Todd Sloan. This is the Pizza and Property Podcast, and you're listening to my chat with research analyst Junge Ma. Junge Ma, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Very good. So I'm really looking forward to getting your take on this listener's choice question. But is there anything you wanted to kind of set the stage with before we get into Matt's question at all?
Yeah, everything's good. Let's go and see.
Jump straight in? Done. Yeah. Easy. Well, did you want to read out Matt's question first? And that way we'll set the stage with it.
Yeah, sure. So Matt says it's a house, a bit run down, 400 to 500K, 3-bedroom house, no units, with high rental yield. The question is, what's the lowest price before I start to compromise quality?
Okay, so basically he wants to know, he still wants a house, he doesn't want a unit, but he doesn't want to just buy something because it's in the price range. Where's that line of, is it actually still going to work as a quality investment?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. Okay. And Matt's obviously wanting to buy it in WA. So we're looking Hall's Head, but before we get into the suburb, do you mind if we start unpacking things from a bit more of a state level, John?
Yeah, no problem. So WA, we are looking at strong population growth and also strong economy at this moment. Population-wise, WA recorded the strongest population last year.
Yeah, right.
3.3% in the 12 months to September quarter 2023. And that is 125% higher than the decade average.
That's huge. And just out of interest, is that international, interstate, or is that just everything, just population growth?
Population growth here includes migration, overseas and internal, as well as natural increase. But for last year, I believe more than 80% was because of migration.
80%. So a huge amount is people moving over.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. All right. So population growth sounds incredibly strong. What else are you seeing for WA?
We are also seeing a thriving economy and active job market.
Okay.
The unemployment rate in WA now is 3.5%, and that is the lowest among all states.
Okay, so huge population growth, low unemployment rate. So things are looking pretty good for WA as a state. Is there anything else that you want to talk about state-wise before we move on to the LGA?
Yes. One thing I really want to mention is the wage growth. It is actually one of the highest. In the 12 months to December 2023, the average wage price in WA rose by 4.7%. And that is the second fastest growth across all states.
4.7. Sorry, over what time frame was that?
Should be from this January 2023 to December 2023 in the whole year.
4.7. So it's one of the more affordable states, and the wages are growing almost faster than anywhere else.
Yes, I guess that's why WA is growing so fast.
Right. Okay. All right. So state-wise, we're looking pretty healthy so far. What if we zoom in a little bit more and go to the LGA? So LGA, if I'm right, is that Mandurah?
Yes. Cool. In Mandurah, we are also seeing very strong population growth. That is 3.8% year on year. It is even higher than WA's average. Internal migration-wise, we are also seeing very strong incoming internal migration trends. In the financial year of 2022 to 2023, the internal migration actually went up by 25%.
25%?
Yes, in a year.
I wonder what the traffic change has been like on people's commute. That's huge.
Yeah. We're also seeing thriving local economy as well. Unemployment rate, 3.5%, in line with the state itself.
Yeah, because what was that, the state, 3.3 or something?
That is also 3.5.
Also 3.5, so
Yes.
literally right in line with it. Yeah, okay. All right, so we're looking at, again, good unemployment rate, strong population growth, like really strong population growth.
Yes.
As far as the LGA is concerned, is there any downsides at all? Because it's all looking pretty good so far.
The LGA itself, the one downside I can see might be the incoming supply.
Okay.
The building approval percentage is a bit high in Mandurah. It is 3.7%. When I talk about building approval percentage, it means the percentage of new house building approvals in the total housing stock in that area. Does that make sense?
It does. But so for anyone that's a little bit newer and they don't understand building approvals, what's a comparison that they could sort of look at? Because 3.7%, is that like 10 times higher? Is that like kind of 50% higher?
Is not really that high. Usually what we see as a low level of building approval is under 2%.
Okay.
So a 3.7 is relatively high.
Mm-hmm.
But not crazily high. And another thing is all the new buildings are in the west side of this LGA. On the coastal side, actually, it's quite well established. So
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So 3.7%, essentially, it's not crazy, but in comparison to building approvals now that are happening in 2024, it's large comparatively.
Yeah, 3.7 in 2024. It is relatively large, but
Yep.
I don't want to say it's crazily high because we are seeing much higher numbers across this nation. So I think it's moderate to high level.
Okay. All right. So nothing to be completely concerned about, but definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. So as far as going down a little bit deeper again to the bottom of the actual suburb, Hall's Head. So we're wanting to know 400,000 to 500,000, no units. Matt's looking for a house. What are we looking at sort of area-wise first before we really get into the nitty-gritty of his question?
That's really important to look at. The suburb Hall's Head is definitely a very hot spot. We are looking at around 1 month of stock inventory. And days on market is 24 in this suburb. That is compared to 44 in the LGA of Mandurah. It's almost half.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, almost half.
1 month of inventory, again, for anyone that's a little bit newer, like you and I know that that's crazy, but could you explain inventory and how that works as like a very brief little overview for anyone that's a bit newer?
Cool. So inventory is basically the ratio of number of listings to the number of sales at a certain period of time. And usually 3 to 4 months of stock is a balanced level. Anything below that is deemed as low. Above that is relatively high with reduced market pressure.
So 1 is very low.
Yes.
Yeah. So essentially, if no one listed a house in Hall's Head for 1 month, there would be literally no houses after a month for sale.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that is insane. Okay, so pressure's building, and we've got extremely low days on market. What about growth?
Now, the suburbs median house price is 640K. It is not really affordable, I believe, compared to greater Perth.
I was going to say, I feel like we've got a few people in Melbourne and Sydney laughing at that statement right now.
Yeah. Even with that relatively high price level, it still achieved 21% year-on-year growth.
21%.
That is really high.
Yeah,
much higher than Greater Perth.
And something I wanted to ask you about this, and whether this is a Hall's Head question or if this is more of an LGA Mandurah question, or possibly even a Perth overall question. Something that I've spoken about with Arj before is the difference between, recovery growth and actual growth. And I might not be saying the wording right, but I've got the picture in my head. And is it true that Mandurah, its median house price almost 10 years ago is pretty much where it is now, but because it dropped so much, it's not actually growth, it's more recovery growth at the moment?
Yes, I think we can say that because house prices here dropped a lot during the decade from 2013 to 2020, I believe, in the 7 years. Now, although it's achieved 21% growth in this 1 year, the price level is actually just 38% compared to 10 years ago. So,
okay. So it's still grown comparatively, but if you really zoom out to a decade, it hasn't grown as much.
The actual growth is not as much. As a comparison, I'm not sure if it's proper to compare this with Sydney.
Okay.
But Sydney's house price now is actually 83% higher than 10 years ago. So if you compare these two cities,
Side by side.
yeah, we can tell that Sydney is definitely much higher than Perth or Mandurah.
And the reason I bring this up is because does that give you more confidence looking forward to go, Perth's probably got more juice left in the tank because it's kind of still playing catch-up growth on past losses?
Yes, that's what we are seeing in Perth. Because in the long term, in the really long term, 30, 50 years, all markets tend to grow at a very similar pace. So as Perth hasn't grown as much as the other cities, we are looking at a lot of space ahead for it to catch up.
Interesting. So is there anything before we get into Matt's question, anything else that you want to say about Halls Head specifically?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let's look at the property.
All right. So drum roll. What's your answer to Matt's question, Jung?
Matt is looking at a 3-bedroom house at the price range of 400 to 500K. That is actually much lower than the median house price in that area.
Because what was that, 640?
640, yes.
640, yeah.
And even for a 2-bedroom house in that area, the median price is 525. That's even higher than this 3-bedroom house. If this house in a really bad condition, or is there any serious issues with it?
Okay.
For example, is there structural issues, or is it in a flood impacted zone, or any due diligence risks around it? So I think there are a few things you can consider when you make the decision. First thing is, as I mentioned, do your due diligence and check if there is any risks around the area, the land, and the property itself.
Okay.
And do a really careful building inspection to check if there is any structural issues with the house itself. Because if there is, you spend so much money to fix it. Adding that on to the price level, I guess it might be even higher than the median price in this area, right? And another thing is, if there's no serious issues with this land or with this property, how much money you would like to spend on the renovation itself. We all know that construction costs now in Perth is really high.
Yep.
I believe you just really do your calculation on the renovation works, and add that costs into your budget. And then I think once you have all the numbers added up, you see if it's worth it to compromise on quality or just go for a nice, well-conditioned house at a more
a
in
lower
line
median
with
price
average.
point. Yeah. And that's what I'm really hearing here is it's not impossible, but you're potentially inviting a lot of problems in. So be really, really careful on your due diligence, Matt, because it sounds like if you were to find a house, like Jung's saying, for around the 400 to 500 range, there's potentially some very big structural issues, you're in a flood zone, you've got a whole list of problems. But realistically, what I'm also hearing is it's probably not going to happen and you might need to reconsider the area or the budget. Is that a fair summation, Jung?
Yes, that's excellent.
Okay. All right, Jung, this has been a great episode. Is there anything else that you wanted to leave everyone with before we part ways today on Perth, Mandurah or Horsehead?
What I'm thinking now is that, Perth is a hot market, Mandurah or Horsehead as well. Just as Matt, when you buy in Perth, don't just go get any house and expect really great capital growth and cash flow. Be careful and really do your due diligence and inspection to avoid any pitfalls.
Beautiful. I hope that's answered your question, Matt. And if you guys have got an area that you want a deep dive done on, click the link in the show notes below and submit your area and a question like Matt's done as well. The more of a question you actually put in, the better this is, because the more focused either Jung or Aj can actually make this one. But otherwise, Junge Ma from Investorkit, thank you so much for jumping on the show. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.